voice of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. It's the George Plaster Show, featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famers Kelly Holcomb and young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. It is a beautiful Monday in Nashville, Tennessee, as we broadcast live from the Ford Ice Center in Bellevue. A little warning here, 24 hours from now, probably not as nice. Some pretty hefty thunderstorms are scheduled to roll in. My God, the Weather Channel has had 5 days of stuff. They're geared up for it, wall to wall. They even have a name for a storm. Let's go to Murfreesboro, check in with Kelly Holcomb. Kelly, how are you?
George, have you been watching the Weather Channel again?
I have watched it a little, yes.
I told you the other day, when you get older, that's what you do. So you keep yourself from doing that, because that just leaves the door open for me to call you old. Stop doing that. And stop telling us that you're watching the Weather Channel all the time.
Well, how else am I going to get you weather information that you need?
I don't know, but you can't sit there and watch the Weather Channel. That's what you do when you're old. You get in a recliner, you get in your white socks like Al Bundy, and then you watch the Weather Channel.
That's not the way this goes, okay? You watch for brief amount of times. You get
How
alert.
would we know that? How would we know that you're brief amount of times?
All I can do is tell you the truth, okay? I'm all about the truth. And if it goes to storm stories, I bag it.
That's good.
What hat is that?
FCA.
Okay. That's acceptable.
Do you like it?
Yeah, did you get it free?
Absolutely.
Yes, I thought so.
Just like that sweater you got. It's free.
No, it is not free.
It's just from a different decade, you know?
Well, it could be. Let's say hello to Billy Derrick, who joins us as well. Hello, William.
Hello.
Yeah.
I see you guys are off to a hot start this afternoon.
We are. And if I'm lucky, I'll be able to sort of push the criticism toward you, and then you can figure out how to deal with it.
As you usually do.
If tonight I get a text about falling asleep during the game, I'm going to let you have it. Just need to know that.
I said to myself last game, I'm going to be nice, and I'm going to try to be nice tonight. But if you show up with something, that I have to say something, that's just who I am. I'm sorry.
You don't like the BGA Golf Hall of Fame thing, do you?
I do, but it's old. It smells like mothball. Like the people around you got up and moved.
Oh, they did.
Smells like mothballs.
That's pretty good. Do you have an update?
I do.
Of any substance whatsoever?
I've got one heck of an update today.
Do you really? I don't believe that.
This one's one for the ages.
Yeah, sure it is.
And it's brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. You can find her online at mortgageladyyusa.com or give her a call, 615-969-4350. AP poll in college basketball is out.
That's your lead story, the AP poll?
Yes, it always
Kelly,
is on a Monday.
What do you think about that?
I don't know. Is this a slow news day, Billy? What's up?
Feels early on like it's going to be.
This is an every Monday thing if you haven't caught on already.
Yeah, whatever.
After a wild hoops weekend in Tennessee, Auburn holds the top spot for the 8th straight week. Tennessee jumps up to number 4 after beating Alabama, courtesy of this game-winning shot from Jemai Meshack.
Oh, yes.
Ziegler gets the ball to Meshack. Meshack's going to take it. 2 seconds. Meshack, 1 second. Launches the three-point shot. Good! At the buzzer. Meshack wins it for Tennessee. With 3.8 seconds to go, Tennessee brings it up the floor. And Jemai Meshack hits the biggest three-point shot in his career. Jemai Meshack, the game winner from near midcourt as he hits that three-point shot. And Tennessee has knocked off Alabama 79-76.
My buddy Bert Bertelkamp just keeps yelling out, money!
That was the best money call he's had, as Tennessee beats Alabama 79-76. Also, Vandy not in the top 25, but they did receive 78 votes after beating Missouri 97-93 in overtime, courtesy of this shot to send it to overtime by Tyler Nickel.
In play, goes to McLaughlin, hands it back to Hogard, speed dribble front court. Hogard driving right side, Nickel for the tie. Yes! 2 seconds left, 81 apiece. Nickel hits from distance. Missouri in play. It goes to Bates, pulls up for the win from half court. Wow. No good. Give us 5 more minutes. We're going to overtime. Listen to him here at Memorial. Tyler Nickel from distance. All even at 81. Headed to OT.
Oh, yeah. There'll be some things analyzed here during the 3:00 hour because there were some mistakes that were made in coaching that allowed those two things to happen.
Indeed. You can say Nate Oates and Dennis Gates again. In the hot seat. So not a bad weekend in the state of Tennessee. Also tonight, 6:00 on ESPN, Wake Forest at number 2 Duke. 8:00 Kansas at number 3 Houston. Some chances for some teams to knock off top 5 teams in the country. Also, conference tournaments underway tonight at 7. Lipscomb and Central Arkansas in the ASUN tournament. Central Arkansas knocking off Stetson yesterday, so that one is at Allen Arena tonight. Bracketology update: Vandy is an 8 seed according to Jerry Palm. The latest Lenardi bracket projections are not out yet, but Palm has Vandy as an 8 seed playing number 9 seed Gonzaga in the regional with Houston.
Who's he got him playing?
Gonzaga.
Oh, wow.
And then Tennessee as a 1 seed in the West region. So Tennessee, see if they can lock up they might have already locked it up, but they got to get these last couple of wins here. They've all but locked it up. You would think they get a 1 seed.
So my guess is that Lenardi will also have Vandy as an 8. And what that should mean is that if there are 68 teams that are getting in, Vandy should be somewhere between 53 and 56 as to where they stack up in it.
Yeah.
Kelly, they've beaten 3 nationally ranked teams in a row, Ole Miss, at A&M, and Missouri. And suddenly, Vanderbilt basketball is fun again. And then I get home Saturday night, and I see the tail end of the Golden State Philly game. And there's Jerry Stackhouse sitting there on Golden State's bench. And I do wonder if ever the thought crosses his mind that, hey, maybe if I'd worked a little harder, we could have been there.
Got to. Do you not think so? It's got to.
I don't know. Have no idea.
Is
bothering at all while he was here.
Is the Magnon kid the only guy that came back? Is he the only one off
no,
that?
This is not the same one.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
No.
Wow.
Ezra Magnon was, in my opinion, the single most positive thing Jerry Stackhouse did.
Yeah.
Vandy's coach was bringing that young man in. This one, Chris Magnon, you want to know why they seem to have found a second wind?
Seriously.
In 2 of the 3 games, he's had double-digit points and double-digit rebounds. And you're kind of sitting there going, wow, is he becoming a scoring option that they didn't have a month ago?
And A.J.
He's
Hogard.
all over the place.
Yeah, Hogard, after an awful month of February, who just sort of disappeared and wasn't hitting anything. He had 23 points against Missouri, or 21 points rather, against Missouri. So
he needed a good game.
Yeah. So Vandy gets back on track. Well, they keep it going actually to get their 3rd win, as George said, and they will play tomorrow night at 9:00 for some reason against Arkansas.
Well, we know the reason why. SEC Network goes with a triple header tomorrow. By the way, congrats to Tennessee. They look like they're in 1 seed territory. That's destiny.
That's
big time high cotton.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
College football news, there's a new defensive coordinator at Vanderbilt. Obviously, Clark Lee was the DC last year, but no longer. He's handing over the reins to Steve Gregory, who was the associate defensive coordinator. He's a former assistant in the NFL. He was a safety in the NFL. He will be the new defensive coordinator at Vanderbilt. And Nick Lazinski, the linebackers coach, was promoted to co-defensive coordinator.
So I'm going to ask a question here. Why?
Because it's hard for a head coach to be a DC.
Yeah, but if it works, I mean, here's the thing. If defensively they slip or their season isn't as good, people are going to ask that question.
Yeah.
Why give them that to open up with?
I just think it's in today's football, it's so hard, guys, for the head coach, whether you're in the SEC, whether you're in the NFL, whether you're in the Big Ten, to be a head coach and be able to call plays. I just think that's too hard. You're managing so many guys. You're managing so many problems during the day, and you got to talk to the media. You got to do. I just think it's tough. And I know a lot of these guys, when they are coordinators, they allow their head assistant, which is I guess he's got the title as a defensive coordinator, as an offensive coordinator, allow them to run the meetings. But like, how do you do that as a head coach? If you're allowing them to run the meetings and you're not in the meetings a lot of times, it's just hard to have a personalized deal with the guys. I don't know how you do it, but I think football has gotten too big, too much money in it nowadays for these head coaches to be coordinators as well.
Also, I know we're going to get to some of the Big Ten SEC stuff with Sankey and Petiti a little bit later, but Florida State and Clemson will vote tomorrow to an agreement that would ultimately result in the settlement of 4 ongoing lawsuits between them and the ACC and a new revenue sharing model that would solidify the conference's membership for the near future.
When you say vote, I'm guessing it's the school's boards of trust.
Yes, that's what I would guess.
Okay.
But looks like Florida State and Clemson are staying in the ACC. I don't think any of us really thought they would. I mean, they want to leave, but I don't think it was realistic to believe the ACC would let them walk. Also in the NFL, the Eagles are releasing Pro Bowl cornerback Darius Slay, which will save the Eagles $4.3 million against the salary cap.
Yeah, but that's a bad locker room loss.
Yeah, that
guy has been very important to their success.
They've also got some decisions to make on guys like Zach Bond on that defense as well, and I want to say Mekhi Becton as well. Some good players they've got to make some decisions on this offseason. Do the Eagles? Speaking of the NFL, the Fox studio show will look a little bit different next season. Jimmy Johnson announced he is leaving the show and retiring from broadcasting.
Hold on. That's not his name.
What?
Jimmy.
Jimmy.
That's how Jerry Jones always called it. Jimmy
Johnson.
Until the point where Jimmy and Jerry were no longer boys.
Yes. So you've got Kurt Menefee, Michael Strahan, Howie Long, Rob Gronkowski, and Jay Glazer making up the rest of that Fox NFL Sunday crew. Jimmy was a big part of that crew.
Sure was.
But no longer. No more Jimmy in the crew. Also, the Bengals have used the franchise tag on T. Higgins for the second straight season. And this tag carries a salary of $26 million. So, Bengals deciding Higgins is there to stay.
They're trying to keep.
Everybody tries to get upset about these franchise tags, but when you get franchise tag, you're going to make a lot of money for 1 year, and it's I know you don't want to. Everybody wants to get tied down under this, but like $26 million, you got to make in the top. I think it's the top 5, the average of the top 5 guys at your position. And that's just like, I just remember guys just getting so upset about that. And I'm like, why are you getting upset? You're getting paid, brother. Paid.
Also, we've talked a lot about Stafford and whether or not he would be moved potentially. Sean McVay came out and said that he never thought Stafford wouldn't return. He had the utmost confidence in the Rams keeping Matthew Stafford. I wonder if it's the same way, the other way around.
Well, for him to feel
everything.
that way, there must have been a gentleman's agreement that said, look, before you go sign somewhere else, you agree to meet with us first, and then let's break bread,
Yes.
so to speak.
So to speak.
So to speak.
That's what I've got.
Okay, it was a good update.
We still got 30 minutes left, Billy. What else? What are we going to do now?
We got 2 minutes.
We don't. I'll tell you what we've got. We've got Kerry Keating
Whoa.
in the
Yeah.
on deck circle. Yes. He's going to talk to us about a series of coaching moves that were made over the weekend that didn't all turn out right in the Southeastern Conference, which, as you know, just means more. This is 94.9, The Fan.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
New year, new priorities. Family and safety come first. If a car or truck accident disrupts your life, Bart Durham Injury Law is here to help. We're local, experienced, and ready to fight for you. Call 615-242-9000. Happy 2025 from Bart Durham Injury Law.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com. Each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Hey, Preds fans, Maxer is coming to you from Boston, where the Predators finish their 3-game road trip tomorrow night at 6 against the Bruins. Pre-game radio coverage begins at 5. All of the call with Boston's own Hal Gill at 6 o'clock.
Smashville lives here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
We are going to have some fun in this first hour with former Santa Clara head basketball coach And before that, former Vandy and Tennessee assistant coach Kerry Keating. Look at him. He looks like a professor these days. What happened to the hair?
I don't know, man. It's been going further back as the days pass. It's almost all the way in the back. My last cut does not look good for media, so I might as well take it all down here soon. So that's the white guy syndrome on TV. It's Greenberg, Billis, and now Keating coming up next in the white bald dude.
I love it. Hey, first of all, thank you for your willingness to come on with us today.
Yeah.
Before we get to the end of the Tennessee-Alabama game, I thought there was a major screw-up in the Missouri-Vandy game where Dennis Gates allows Vandy to take a three at the buzzer. There's no way I'm letting Vandy have that opportunity. I'm fouling, but I'm also not a coach. So, Kerry, kind of run people through coaches' thought processes of, do you foul or do you not?
This is an interesting one, George. I think you either have to make that decision in the preseason and practice it, or you have to have a type of team that you trust to implement this on the fly. And let me go back to 1994-95 season, when my second year of coaching, the year before, I take that back, 93-94, the year before I got to Vandy, I was at Wake Forest. And we were in the semifinals of the ACC tournament, up 3 against North Carolina. And we got into a huddle, and Dave Odom told the team, okay, we're going to foul. And right away, myself and Jerry Wainwright looked at each other and went, oh, boy, we never practiced it before. And not that we knew that it would be a failure, but you kind of have that instinct, like the kids have to have the same type of conviction that the head coach does and understanding. And we really didn't in hindsight. Charlie Harrison ended up fouling, I think it was Derek Phelps, at the half-court line with like more than 8 seconds, which I think is the cutoff line for doing that.
Yeah.
Stackhouse rebounded the second rebound after a first miss and put it in, and we lost in overtime. And the game was really in hand. This was the year before Randolph Childress's famous comeback up Jeff McGinnis. So Randolph had still established himself, and we had a chance that year to go win it, I thought, if we had won that game. Now, fast forward throughout my career, I learned a hard lesson because I wasn't a foul guy. And I actually lost in my most successful season at Santa Clara 2 games back-to-back at home by not fouling up 3. And that same season had a chance to beat Washington State. And this is kind of leading towards the Vandy end of game, Georgia. And I thought about that. We did a poor job, and to a parallel extent, so did Missouri. There's no reason up 3 if you're not going to foul to guard anybody inside 3, because a 2 doesn't beat you, right? You want to play the game where you can't get beat. High is not getting beat, but what it did lead to was overtime, and you got beat. At the very least, time comes off the clock. Even if they go get a layup, obviously you're still up 1 with the ball and a chance to control your fate. I agree with you, and with a conclusion I've come to as a coach is it was under 8 seconds. Now, what we implemented was we called it now defense. We didn't call it foul or foul because we didn't want to influence the referees. Now was foul now. And in the case of teaching guys how to foul, it was reach for the ball. And if you get a steal, you get a steal. If you foul, you foul. And you always fouled on the dribble. I think we saw that happen a couple weeks ago in the Wake Forest, Florida State game, where a guy actually fouled at a half court in the act of shooting. A guy at half court, and they gave him 3 shots. I'm not sure he meant to foul because it was a kind of a weird ending in that game as well. A lot of derivatives. But to your point, George, you have to do that, I think, at the beginning of the season. Now, this leads to what I was going to bring up, and you beat me to it in both of these games. I think this is also a little bit of the sign of the times, of the types of rosters these coaches are getting. Yes, they're experienced and they're older and they're portals. And in the case of the SEC, they're well compensated to go out and play.
You think?
They've always been, but now we really know about it.
Right. Now it's legal.
At least it's above the table now. But you don't have the type of teams that have been through this together, or maybe the leadership that's dynamic enough to corral the right mindset. And I don't think this is the last time we're going to see this. I think early in the tournament, in the first 4 rounds, maybe 3, because there's more wackiness that can happen, we will have a team that's a heavy favorite, supposed to win, up against it, possibly face this same situation and get it played reverse against them, where a team executes it to perfection because they know how to do it. Because, like, take the guy Ben McCollum at Drake. He's got a veteran team that he brought from a Division II, very cerebral, understand how to play. I guarantee you teams like that will make the right decision. In the case of Missouri, and certainly in the case of Alabama, there were some decisions made by the players on the floor. In the case of Bama, a younger player. In the case of Missouri, an older player, where I'm not so sure that those ancillary details were attended to, obviously, properly, and it ended up in losses for both of those teams.
Okay, you got to help me a little bit, Kerry, because in those final 36 seconds that we're going to show of the Alabama-Tennessee game, the truth of it is I was at Memorial Gym. It was basically tip-off time there. So kind of talk me through, and Billy, you kind of tell me, do we want to just show the 36 seconds? And I guess Kerry can talk through it. Kerry, go ahead.
Well, Philon, who's been playing well lately, only made 1 of 2 to put him up 4. And then this is a crucial mistake. You cannot foul. And even though it may or may not have been a foul, just let him get the layup. And again, you're still up 2 with the ball. And I think Nelson thought he played pretty good defense here, but nevertheless, that's an end one. That is the worst thing that can happen. And it ends up really being the worst thing, because as we're going to see after this, the free throws that follow ended up being a miss. And everyone looks at the end of the game for what Meshack did to make the shot. But this really is the first play where he won the game. He beats these guys to the spot and draws a foul. I mean, you couldn't have scripted up a way to not do this any worse than what happened with Alabama right here. And again, Nelson's a guy that's been through this a little bit too, a guy that's experienced. Meshack that ends up making 2 free throws, and it turns into a 4-point play essentially in what amounts to 6 seconds. You know, killing clock, letting the clock run, fouling early. You have to create time when you're down. But what you don't want to do as a team who's up is give them more time. And this is exactly what Alabama did. And then I thought what was interesting after this, after seeing Meshack make this free throw, is they had a chance in the ensuing possession when they inbounded to get the ball to their money guy, no pun intended, to get it to Sears. They didn't get it to Sears. They got it to Philon, and he dribbled the clock down from 30 down to 3.8, and it ended up trying to be the hero, as you see here, and it gets tied up. He still could have passed the ball to Sears here. This is what's interesting here. I wonder if ancillary things come into play for a freshman, especially a local kid from Mobile, that, hey, if I make this winning play, I can parlay this into something a little bit more fiscally advantageous, if you get what I'm saying here. This
Fiscally advantageous.
You don't know about what freshmen, especially ones that are playing well and local guys, are thinking, right? So now all of a sudden you have Philon, all right, who made only 1 of 2. Now he's the guy and here's the key. He goes to the trifecta here. And this is what's interesting about Nate Oates to me. He has Philon inbound the ball on the next possession with 3.8 seconds. Every time an NBA preseason camp starts, guys, the number one thing NBA guys do is determine who is their inbounder. Because in the NBA, there's a lot of side inbound plays for the advance the ball. That is the key guy in exactly these situations, because your best player is your best decision maker. It doesn't have to necessarily be your best player in terms of Sears being able to deliver, but now you come out of the timeout. And you know what? I was watching this with my son, because I'm trying to, in high school, teach him these things as we go along. And I said, what's the most important thing you have to do coming out of that timeout if you're Philon? What do you need to do? And it took him a while. And then we realized, how many timeouts do we have left? Alabama had 2 timeouts left. Not just 1 and we're going to pocket them, 2. And they get a 5-second count. And now the 5-second count, now they commit the ultimate sin and turn it over, albeit on the road. And here you are with the last 3.8. And this is what ensues. Now, I don't know if Billy can pull it up and show the last shot right here, because this was what really stood out to me. And then I went backwards, George. First off, as you see when we pull it up here, they didn't put anybody on the ball. which is cardinal sin number one. And we don't need to go back to the Kentucky Duke game when they need to go full court and let. It was a spot throw-in. I was shocked that they didn't put on a spot throw-in where the guy can't run the baseline and create space, at least someone to deter that ball being advanced.
Ziegler gets the ball to Meshack. Meshack's going to take it. 2 seconds. Meshack, 1 second. Launches the three-point shot. Good! At the buzzer. Meshack wins it for Tennessee. With 3.8 seconds to go, Tennessee brings it up the floor. And Jemai Meshack hits the biggest three-point shot in his career.
But if you go back and stop this at 1.2, right before the shot goes up, right in front of the official that was trailing, both Ziegler and Rick Barnes are calling timeout. And I'm like, wow, that either that official just like ignored him or didn't see them, or divine intervention didn't give him the timeout. Two guys. Usually you don't see the coach, but Ziegler turned around as well. The trail official, I didn't know it, didn't give it to him. And Rick, for about 1 second, reacts to it and is pissed. He's pissed off. Like the shot's in the air. Rick's like angry to get the free throw. And then he just goes like this, like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
No. Great shot.
This is where it stood out to me. At this point in the season, you have a group of teams that end up in the national championship game or winning are in the top 21 of efficiency of offense and top 31 of defense at the same time. And we all know what's getting ready to come up next month. The second SEC tournament, also known as the NCAA tournament, is going to happen. And there's going to be 14 SEC teams in there. Now, here, let's watch it again. Keep your eye on Rick Barnes over here. Watch Rick call timeout. Watch Ziegler. They're both signaling for timeout. And here's Rick. Look at Rick's arms. He's already up. I didn't get my timeout. Like, your roll, keep your eye on Rick right here. Look at him. He's like, he's mad. He's
mad.
He's actually mad. You didn't get the timeout. I swear to you. So anyway, back to my point, guys. In the SEC Invitational coming up in the NCAA tournament, you'll have 13 or 14 teams. Vandy, I think, just put themselves in an 8-9 seed after the win over Missouri. And congratulations to Mark. There's only 2 teams out of a group of 10 right now that at this point in the season have historically produced a national championship in 96% of the last 23 champions. And those are teams that own a rating of top 21 offense and top 31 defense. Neither of them are Alabama. Neither of them are Tennessee. It's Auburn and Florida. There's only 2 of the 14 teams and 2 of that group of 8 at the top that own that metric. There are 4 Big 12 teams, 2 ACC teams, for as maligned as the ACC is. Clemson's actually one of them right now, and I think Wisconsin just snuck in after their win. Whether that maintains through March, but for all of the depth that the SEC has, obviously, and rightfully so, the metrics don't point to it being a 4-team SEC Final Four just yet. It could very well happen, as we know. It's more leaning towards this Florida and this Auburn team really being the ones to have the best shot. And then I turn around and look at teams like this and how end-of-game situations happen. Missouri, Alabama. Something may be off that may come back to bite him in March, and it might be end-of-game situations. That might be a byproduct of a lot of different factors that come into play in this day and age of college basketball.
Okay, so first of all, as Gates is flying back to Columbia, is he second-guessing himself?
Well, you always look. It's coach's nature to do that because you always can make a different decision. Now, I tend to think he's one that lives with the decisions that he makes because I think he's a good enough coach that he made the decision to not do that and knew that. What you would wonder is when it happens again, because it's going to happen again. Are they able to utilize that result to not have the same thing happen? You have to have a really good rebounding team. You have to have a team of 5 guys on the floor you can trust. But at the very least, I think you're obviously using it as a teaching lesson. There's no reason. I mean, I'll never forget it, George. We had a chance to beat Washington State. We finally got him scheduled at Santa Clara. Klay Thompson was on the team. We were up by 3. And I can't remember the point guard's name from Washington State. And of all people, Klay Thompson. And the guy that left him on my team was the WCC Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh, wow.
Left to go help on a drive, up 3 and left Clay open. What does he do? Makes the 3, we lose in overtime. So you have to really drill that in. I think you have to really practice it. It's hard to change in March what you haven't done all year. So I don't think it's a second guess as much as the teaching opportunity to maybe try it differently come tournament time. But I think he just realizes, hey, that's the result we got. We can't have the same one next time. And I'm sure he'll go back and say it should have never come to that. That's what good coaches do. They don't go to that one play. They go back to the 3 or 4 missed opportunities earlier on that they should have had that probably would have won them the game and not even be in that position.
Okay, let me go to the Bama part for a minute. Then we'll go to the break, and then Kelly will talk to you about some things. On Alabama's front, does Nate Oates on that flight or bus trip back to Tuscaloosa mentally say to himself, if I get in this position again, Sears has the ball. It won't be the freshman.
Well, I think that's an easy one because only he can answer why Sears didn't have the ball. And clearly in that situation, when you have to get a shot up and you can't lose the game, right? You can't lose it at that point, right? It was tied. You have to put it in his hands. I mean, he's proven that before. You need to put your best players in the best position to have the best result. And although they may show a little bit of trust in what Svilo's been able to do lately, you have to get it to Sears. They had 2 opportunities to do that. I think that's an easy teaching point.
By the way, this happens all over the country. Maryland, Michigan State last week in a game where Maryland has flown under the radar quite a bit this year. That was going to be almost a coming out party for the nation to see how good they were playing the best team in the league in Michigan State, and they blew the late game stuff, and a kid from Michigan State hits about a 56-footer.
By the way, Maryland, one of those 10 teams in that group also. You say under the radar, you wouldn't have thought Wisconsin and Maryland would be in there, let alone Clemson. Maryland is in that group currently right now, even after those 3 losses and the one you just talked about, Michigan State.
Yeah, happy for my buddy Kevin Willard. And I bet Ralph is having a blast watching Maryland and probably calling him going, what are you doing? We'll go to the break on that. Kerry Keating is with us, and as you can tell, man, his basketball expertise is at the top of the charts. He'll be joined by Kelly Holcomb in a moment. This is 94.9 The Fan. This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks, and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
As we step into the new year, there's nothing more important than family and safety. If a car wreck or big truck accident turns your world upside down, Bart Durham Injury Law is here to help. We're local, we're experienced, and we're ready to fight for what you deserve. Call us anytime at 615-242-9000. Really wishing you a safe and happy 2025 from Bart Durham Injury Law.
If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you know what? You need to contact the folks at Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you're a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. So check them out today, pancoastbenefits.com, or call them at 615-292-3400.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Or call them at 615-292-3400.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Two total screw-ups of humongous proportions.
Sports. We're not living in an era where perfection is necessary.
They thought they were a championship contending team.
Here, we told you not to do this. Your sports live here.
On ESPN 94.9.
And the Game Nashville Sports Network. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Well, a good friend, former Santa Clara head basketball coach Kerry Keating, who was once on Buzz Peterson's staff at Tennessee, on Jan Van Bredekoff's staff at Vandy, is with us. He has put on a coaching clinic during the first segment. Kelly, take advantage of it. Go to town.
Kerry, put on another coaching clinic here. Hey, here's what I want to. Here's what I don't understand. We showed the picture of Chaz Lanier making the shot over the Nelson kid. You say you can't make that play, but like, how is that a foul on the Nelson kid? He went straight up, and Chaz Lanier took his shoulder and rammed it right into his chest. Like, I don't understand. Like, I know you're not going to get that call nowadays, especially being at UT. You're not going to get an offensive call, but that looked like an offensive foul to me.
You know, if anything, Kelly, I think it's not a foul at all. I agree with you on that. As much as we can malign Nelson for even being there, you know, those are one of the things where having a handle on who's refereeing the game certainly can be somewhat of an advantage. I don't think there was a home court type advantage in that call, or even a transition. Those are the type of calls that happen in transition a lot, Kelly, where referees will make excited calls in transition just for the speed of the play. And how many times you see that happen in transition where the guy never gets touched or run by, but it kind of looks like that, and they're not quite in position. You know, that referee made that call from behind Nelson. It wasn't like he was on that side and saw the contact. He saw it from behind. And I would venture to say that in the breakdown that the SEC officials most likely still do on a weekly basis, that made the training tape in the fact that it probably wasn't a foul. Now, there's no 2-minute report, although I will definitely, if I was coaching and in the professionalization of college basketball now, vote for that. That's something that we really haven't heard a lot about, guys, that I think would be a great thing to push. Like, if we're going to professionalize everything, and I know they've had these consortiums of officials in all different leagues and regions, if we're going to professionalize this and we're going to be paying the players now on the same type of level of paying the coaches and build out these front office staffs, don't we really have to take the officiating to a different level as well? Because there's a lot of things that get affected by that. And I think, Kelly, you're spot on. Even though that's what happened and we reacted and broke down what the call was, in all likelihood, when you look at it, it was straight up. It was vertical. His hands were up. He went backwards. Lanier went into him. If anything, it's a no call. You could nitpick it was an offensive foul, yes. But I think the third option was the one that the official chose, was probably not the right one in hindsight.
Yeah, but where's the consistency? Like, what are you telling? If you're Nate Oates, what are you telling the Nelson kid? Like, you did everything I've taught you to do. You put your hands straight up. There's nothing you can do about that. And they still, like, that was a big momentum swing in that game right there, because, I mean, he's doing what the coaches taught him to do. Go straight up.
The only thing that can change in that particular situation, given the fact they were up by 4 and it was the end of the game, is not even be there. Like, don't let the officials choose that. But I think you're spot on. I think from a defensive standpoint, from how to play it, that's a question that's valid. I mean, it's one that I didn't see on the broadcast, Nate, really challenging it or being outlandish about it. And there wasn't much of talk from Jimmy Dykes and obviously Vitale about the fact that it probably wasn't a foul, that it was good defense. But I think in that situation, when you're up by 2 possessions, you don't want to give up a 3 if you can avoid it, but you certainly don't want to be even in a position to foul him. I mean, what's the best case that they call a foul and they don't call a foul and he misses it? The next one, they don't call a foul and he makes it. Well, or they call a foul and he misses it, he still has a chance to make 2. Like, don't give him a chance to put more points on the board. I think in that particular time and score is such a huge thing. Just get out of the way, let the guy make the layup. But in the other 39 minutes and 30 seconds, probably not a foul and probably shouldn't be a foul. It probably isn't one that he would be there anyway. I think, again, if you go back and call the SEC director officials and that's on the training tape, I bet you it's on there as this shouldn't have been a foul.
You made a great point earlier, too, because I've always said this about when the Phylon kid got it and he held the ball so long, which I don't understand that either. He's a freshman. But I've always said that you've got some guys that want to be the reason. And it seemed like he wanted to be the reason right there. And when you just said that these guys, with all this NIL money and this transfer stuff, does that register in these guys' minds? And that's what I've never thought about that. I've never thought of it like that. And I think as a coach in today's world, you're talking about practicing with, you got to practice all this stuff, which you got to practice all these situations you're talking about. But isn't that something also that you have to talk about maybe nowadays with NIL and transfer portal with these kids?
I think especially for the local kids, it's going to come up. I mean, think about the market value of where these kids are at, right? And what can happen from a viral moment. I don't know the Philo kid. I don't know if he's got a representation. I don't know if he has a social media presence. Obviously, he's had a nice little string here of double-digit scoring in the last 6 or 7 games. He's been a double-digit average guy all year. He's been in their rotation. And clearly, Nate values him because, look, like I said, the very next play had him taking the ball out of bounds, right? So he thinks he's a part of the team. But Kelly, I'll tell you, in the non-traditional way of recruiting that's happening now, where you're not really developing relationships and an ability to have those hard conversations, which, by the way, weren't really centered around how much money you're legally getting paid right now. Maybe they were centered around like, hey, look, man, you took the bag. It might have, I think for the SEC guys, it's probably easier to have those conversations when it wasn't legal than when it is. Because now you got to get above board and have those conversations. Those are hard conversations to have when it's an actual contract. If you're dropping off $50K to grandma around the corner to take care of the ranch, and all of a sudden the kid's not doing anything, it's like, hey, man, what are you doing? Like, now it's like, hey, remember what Rick said, which is, did he bench Ziegler for not taking a shot? Because that's what you get paid to do. Like
Chaz Lanier, yeah.
There's a whole grandma is the middleman.
Hey, look, they're all over the Southeast. We know that. And look, it is what it is, guys. But what I love about this now, to Kelly's point, it requires a whole new skill set. And to be honest with you, I think this is also shifting at the very highest level to come out of the coach's hands. And those conversations are had by other people on the staff in positions of power to determine, one, what your value is out of whatever the $20 million is taken towards the team, whether it's football or basketball. 2, what your contract is. And then 3, if the coach deems you to be a guy that's not coachable. And maybe not coachable is just this. If you're too worried about making money and not letting it take care of itself if we're winning. This is all speculative. I don't even know. But I'm telling you, there are definitely kids out there that may or may not be getting paid as much as their teammates or their counterparts that see what happens when virality now can trigger a windfall of money outside of your contract. And you got to think, maybe Sears was standing right there. I don't know if he was delinquent to say to coach, I'm going to wave him off, but you got to think that at some point somewhere that is a factor or at least can be a factor in this decision-making for some of these younger kids.
Okay, Coach, let me ask you this on a coaching standpoint. If you're already locked in a certain situation, this happens in the NFL when you get towards the end of the season, which I'm familiar with, but when you're locked in a certain place in the tournament and you got one game left or maybe two games left, how do you treat those games? Do you rest your starters? I know if there's guys that are hurt or a little bit have aggravated some stuff, how do you treat that? Because there's a situation that I've been around, and I just think you need good momentum going into the tournament. You don't want to lose games just because you're setting people out. How did you handle that?
Right on point, Kelly. We talked about this on our local show here because we were talking about how Duke is getting banged up a little bit. Proctor was out for the first time in 37 consecutive starts, and they put in Isaiah Evans to come in and took his place, right? And how do you take care of the end of the season? How do you keep guys sharp? Do you worry about injuries? Do you worry about resting guys? And I think the easy answer in that is you lower the amount of time on the floor. You lower the amount of time there could be possible contact. But you also don't want to get them out of their ways of how they do things and how they get better by competing, right? So you got to just be very, very sharp. You got to be on top of it. Give them time to get their own reps in, whether it's shooting, ball handling, whether it's video work, whether it's 2-on-2 or 3-on-0. A lot of dummy offense that's sharp and game speed type. You're going at the very highest level you can, but you still have to be able to play in live action every day, or at least 2 or 3 days out of the week. What happens, though, as you know, you have these back-to-backs coming in the conference tournaments. And even though those are going to be going by the wayside here pretty soon as well, you still have the Thursday, Saturday, or Friday, Sunday. So I think if you're one of the top teams, you start to get into that, 3-day, 4-team type tournament mode, right? And you can practice that as well. You can actually get towards the end of the season and practice that and say, okay, we're going to go hard practice today. We're going to be light tomorrow as if it were a Thursday, Friday, and then we're going to come back on Saturday, that third day, and we're going to go hard. So at least you have the conditioning aspect of it kept up. You just want to try to avoid any unnecessary injuries as much as possible, especially when they can happen in practice.
Kerry, appreciate you taking the time. I want to go to Vanderbilt right now. I don't think any of us thought.
I don't think they would admit you.
A lot of people want to go to Vanderbilt right now.
I would love to go to Vanderbilt right now. Yeah. Did you think any of this was possible this year? I think maybe in the back of our minds, we thought a tournament appearance could be possible, but their ceiling could be a 7 seed. They're doing even more than I think anybody expected.
Well, I think that's a credit to Mark and his staff. Obviously we're all well aware of Vanderbilt's deficiencies, if you will, and being able to sustain success as far back as when Coach Vogler was there. There were challenges academically. There were challenges logistically. Heck, George and I even had challenges trying to do Midnight Madness in 1994 when some young punk had to go out and raise $5,000 on his own to put on a laser show against for 5,000 people showed up to Memorial. Still one of the greatest spectacles in Memorial history. It's kind of gone under the radar, by the way, if I may say so myself.
Well, this is giving you a chance to,
bring it back up. It's always nice.
Our moment.
Yeah, I had to do everything. I'm an assistant coach in the SEC at 24 years old, and here I am. What am I doing during Midnight Madness? I have headsets on directing guys to put music on and smoke and lasers. I have nothing to do with what's going on in the court other than the production value of it. I probably clearly missed my calling as the coaching thing abruptly came to an end 24 years later. No, but to your point, I think a lot of this is doable for coaches that can handle the ability to offload duties. It really was hard in the past as a head coach. Remember, they instituted rules in the NCAA where if you didn't have awareness of everything your coaching staff was doing, they punished you. Like the phone calls and recruiting and logs and that stuff. That's all gone now as it is. But if you can have people that you trust that can evaluate the portal for you, that understand your way of doing things, you can go out and get kids. And I gotta think, guys, you probably know this better than me, that the ability to transfer into Vanderbilt, I'm not sure if that's easier than getting kids admitted out of high school. I'm not sure. I'd be curious to find this out to this point. Maybe we can follow up on it. It may actually be easier for academic schools to get transfers into school than to get high school kids admitted if you don't already have a set number of kids you can get in for athletics. I don't know if football's been dealing with this baseball, but I know in the past that's always been the case in the UC schools. that you could go to a community college and you can find your way into, just as a normal student, into a UC school a lot easier than coming out of high school. That may or may not be the case at Vanderbilt. But just from a talent perspective, I think Mark has done a great job of obviously finding the right guys that fit. And he proved he could coach, right? This is a guy that can coach the game. He has his wits about him. He knows what he's doing, and I think 7 is within reach. I think now the last I saw it of the 85 or 100 brackets had them at an average of about a 9 seed. But the bottom line is they're in the tournament. Like let's forget about the seeding for a chance. They're in the toughest conference maybe ever in the last 20 years. And they found themselves as one of the 13 or 14 teams, as crazy as it sounds, that are going to be in the tournament. And as you look at it now, they're putting themselves in a position where, Florida and Auburn may be 2 of those teams, but look, the 10th seed in the SEC is a 7 to 9 seed in the NCAA. This tournament's going to be harder than the NCAA tournament. Again, the NCAA tournament being the second SEC tournament of the postseason, they're already in that. They put themselves in that. This tournament may be tougher, front to back than maybe the NCAA is for the first 2 or 3 weeks.
Let me stop here for just a second. If you're watching by way of the podcast, if the season stopped today, here would be the Wednesday matchups. 9 versus 16, Mississippi State, South Carolina. 12-13 is Georgia against a Texas that looked to me like they quit Saturday at home against the Dogs. The 10 versus 15 would be Vandy LSU, and the 11 and 14 would be Arkansas, who just failed to even show up in Columbia, South Carolina Saturday against the Oklahoma Sooners. Kerry, let me ask one question. Would you stick around for about 10 more minutes after the break?
Sure, absolutely.
Beautiful.
I get to ask Kelly if he's happy that the Eagles won. Does he get to claim the Eagles on his resume as part of the family?
Hold on.
I was there for a coffee break. Nah.
Yeah.
Hold on to it. We'll go deeper. After the break, stat of the day, we're going to dump it in Kerry's lap. And then a few more minutes with the professor, Kerry Keating, on 94.9 The Fan.
Where can you see a saber-toothed tiger rappel from the rafters? How about a catfish fly? The biggest stars in Music City. Not to mention hockey's hottest ticket.
The Predators win!
Only in Smashville. See your Nashville Predators all season long at Bridgestone Arena. Single game tickets are on sale now at NashvillePredators.com. Let's go, Preds!
Hit After Hit has become the baseball store in Tennessee. They have over 1,000 different models of gloves and over 1,500 wood bats. They also have several Iron Mike pitching machines as well as a Hit Tracks machine. If they don't have it, you probably don't need it. We're proud to call Hit After Hit the official shirt provider of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. This is the most anticipated March Madness that we have had in a long time. There's going to be some great basketball, and the George Plaster Show has it all covered. Whether we take our show to your business or you simply endorse things like March Madness scoreboard updates or other features, we've got it all covered. If you want to be part of a big March Madness, simply email me, plastergeorge@gmail.com. We can fit all of your needs, and we'll find out what your budget will allow.
Commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonleyTimmons.com.
This is the most anticipated March Madness that we have had in a long time. There's going to be some great basketball, and the George Plaster Show has it all covered. Whether we take our show to your business or you simply endorse things like March Madness scoreboard updates or other features, we've got it all covered. If you want to be part of a big March Madness, simply email me, plastergeorge@gmail.com. We can fit all of your needs, and we'll find out what your budget will allow.
Your sports live here. WBUZ HD3 Laverne. All around the world on the Game Nashville app. We are the Game Nashville Sports Network. ESPN 94.9. The Fan. A Cromwell media station.
It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
All right, we're keeping the college basketball talk going with Kerry Keating coming up next. But first stat of the day brought to you by Apple Collision Centers. You can find them in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. Give them a call, 615-754-9800, or log on to applecollisioncenters.com. All right, looky here. We're going a little Vandy for stat of the day. With a string of good wins, Vandy is looking to secure a single-digit seed in the NCAA tournament. Its first appearance since 2017. Who did Vandy play in the first round that year in 2017?
Northwestern.
I'm going with George.
Smart move, Kelly. Now,
well, this is
Kerry's
a lot of people
would
get this confused because they were back to back, right? And
well, I thought this wasn't the one that was in San Jose. Were they in San Jose for a regional? Because I thought I saw them play when I was back at Santa Clara, but it wouldn't have been. Might have been Murray State.
Okay, hold on. Was Kevin still there?
No,
in 17. So that's
this
Bryce
was Bryce Drew.
It's Northwestern.
It is Northwestern, and
damn right
I think that was in San Jose.
Yeah, it was.
George.
That was Northwestern's first ever tournament appearance.
Murray State might have been in that region. Maybe they didn't play them.
Yeah, no, Murray State. That was not Murray State. I remember Vandy played Murray State. Did they not one year and they lost?
Oh yeah, and the Murray State that played Belmont yesterday, they are a shadow of those old Murray State teams. They don't have anything close to the front line that they did have. If Kerry Keating wants to get back in coaching, Murray State will be open in about 2 weeks. Book it.
He may.
I'm going to be a GM, George. I think it's time to move into the GM roles.
Well,
GM. Hey, everybody's got a GM now.
I think with the glasses and the professorial look, I mean, it fits you.
I guys, not to self-promote too much, but I have developed a complete plan for a new staff build out of a front office that includes a proprietary algorithm to input to develop a better way to evaluate the transfer portal that will be behind closed door being shopped to some top guys out there. If they want to bring me on to run it, I'll be happy to do it.
Nice.
Proprietary algorithm.
You know, I have a second life as an entrepreneurial startup VC type guy, so I have to make sure I combine those two worlds. And what a better day to do it than today when those worlds are now colliding. Worlds colliding, George. Worlds are colliding.
Yes, and I am lost in the forest somewhere in all this. Billy, you had a couple more things for Kerry?
Yeah, back to the SEC. I mean, my goodness, you look at even some of those teams that'll have a bye on Thursday. Kentucky, Missouri, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, that second tier, those are teams you forget about. But and we always talk about Auburn and Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, the top four. Who's another SEC team you think that could really make a run, even maybe in a Mississippi State that there aren't a ton of people talking about? You think?
I don't know if they can make a run, but just from a numbers standpoint, because it's just amazing how many teams we're talking about here. In the top 50 of the net. And I think this year we're really going to see how refined the net ranking has become as we feed more historical data into it. And we're going to find out pretty quickly if it means something, because the AD at North Carolina is a committee chairman. North Carolina is 1-10 in quad one. And how many times we hear how important quad one is? The quad one wins right now, if you take out of the top 50, the 12 or the 13 teams ahead of Oklahoma, of those 37 teams left ahead of Oklahoma, who I think is right about 52, they have more quad one wins than I think more than half of them. They have 5 quad one wins. So if I think if I'm Oklahoma and I see Carolina's name pop up in this tournament before I come up, I'm not shutting the door on that selection show party just yet, because that means that quad one meant something from the standpoint that at least Carolina played those games and they didn't punish them for being in a bad league this year in the ACC, but they rewarded them for playing them, albeit only winning one of them depending on what happens in the last game of the season at home against Duke. 5 quad one wins right now travels. And I know Oklahoma hasn't done anything else to deserve anything but that. And obviously the SEC has presented more opportunities, but they won 5 of them. The reason why I bring that up, Billy, is if they beat Arkansas and find themselves in a game with Texas A&M, if Oklahoma can win a game or two, this may be 14 teams in right now. I think you clearly have 13 in. I think that's been documented that they've done enough. I'm not sure if Texas or Georgia really warrant that. But Oklahoma is a team that could sneak in. And I think the way that this sets up with this tournament, that first day, really you're fighting to solidify your at-large, or maybe, solidify your ability to be an at-large, let alone keep moving forward to take all of that out of the equation by winning this thing. But it's too daunting of a task with this league and those 4 teams or 5 teams waiting, especially the top 4 waiting with a double bye to get to them after having played 2 games already.
Hey, Billy, Lenardi put it out there over the weekend that Carolina better beat Duke. That's the regular season finale.
Yeah.
On Saturday.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do. I mean, the way they're in the ACC, Kerry, but North Carolina is starting to come on, and maybe they don't get in, but I think there's something to be said about what Hubert Davis has been able to do in the last couple of weeks, despite a lot of the negativity. And he'll be back next year, and next year he'll have pressure on him. But I mean, you got to give them some credit here because it didn't totally fall apart.
What's interesting about Carolina, I've been paying attention to that here locally for the last couple months. I've been going on a weekly here with some guys in the North Carolina Sports Network with David Glenn and Mike Waddell. Once Hubert announced publicly that they were going to hire a GM, they've lost 1 game since. And I'm telling you guys, the physical appearance of how Hubert was completely has changed since he got that weight off his shoulders. And the way that the team is playing. Now, he's also fundamentally made some coaching decisions too. Number one, he's limited Elliot Cadeau's minutes because Elliot Cadeau just turned the ball over during this show. And maybe he's going to do it again before the show's over. That guy is a walking turnover. I mean, it ain't going to work if he's handling the ball.
Shoot.
They've lowered his minutes and they've figured out a way to win, and maybe that's a correlation. But I think there's a direct correlation. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about here and there throughout our time today. You're going to see coaches really have to earn their coaching chops and supremely focus on just coaching. And if they can get someone in their hands, in their office, to take care of these rosters and these financial decisions and these deals that have nothing to do with how the kids are playing on the floor necessarily, then it's a big weight off these guys' shoulders at the highest level. The best managed front offices obviously do well. Carolina's in a position where, yes, they knew they had opportunities. They had a great non-conference schedule. And unfortunately, didn't come up with any meaningful wins. And again, as we mentioned, 1-10 in quad one, and they're only going to get one more quad one game, and that's at home against Duke, where, by the way, Hubert has proven he can win. He ended Coach K's career twice, right, during the regular season and then obviously in the Final Four. He's shown he can beat Duke. If they can get R.J. Davis back going, if they can solidify somebody in the front court, I'll tell you a little bit of knowledge I've come up with, and I'm not putting anything out there. I think they're so imbalanced in how they've paid these guys that it caught up with them a little bit, and they've had some hard conversations recently. I'll tell you, you guys know this. Cade Tyson has a pretty sweet deal at North Carolina. He wasn't even playing for the first 20 games, and he was getting paid pretty well to not play. Now he's started to find himself come back in this rotation and do what he's capable of doing, which is shooting the ball. But scoring 16 for 2 years at Belmont, shooting 43% in the Missouri Valley, doesn't also not always translate into the ACC. He still has another year left to do that per whatever deal he's on, unless they decide to move on and put him in the portal again. But Carolina, they're going to have their opportunities. I think they're the one team that's happy that we still have conference tournaments while we still do, because we all know that's going to probably end up changing here pretty soon when we go to these super deals or just one big league, professional league that has a longer season.
All right, last thing from me, Janai Broom or Cooper Flagg, National Player of the Year.
I'm biased because I've seen Cooper too much and he's younger. I mean, I'll go with the old, we'll take the younger guys. The one thing about Cooper Flagg, and I think this is still the case, he may become the first freshman to lead his team in all 5 steals, blocks, assists, rebounds, and points. He leads in all 5 categories. Wow. He will most likely become the 4th freshman to be National Player of the Year. Anthony Davis, Zion Williamson, I think, was it Kevin Durant maybe? He could be National Player of the Year. He'll clearly be Player of the Year in the ACC. I think he's too skilled all around the court. I mean, Broom obviously has an ability to step out and has done a better job of making shots this year. But I think Flagg affects the game in ways maybe a little bit more than Broom does. If I had to choose right now, gun to my head, I'd probably take Flagg.
Okay, last thing for you. If you had a choice, if we believe, and maybe you don't believe, that Auburn is the best team in the country, would you rather take your chances that Duke can beat them on a neutral court or Houston?
Oof. Well, what's interesting in that question? Duke has created a roster of a few transfers and clearly really good young talent. And the kid that I mentioned, Isaiah Evans, who's filled in for Tyrese Proctor, is a local kid here from Carolina, could end up getting this playing time right now all the way into a first-round selection. He's that type of kid that just hasn't gotten the time because they're so deep. But I'll tell you right now, we brought this up again today. The things that have happened and have changed in the rules of college basketball, which never really applied to the SEC anyway, but Kelvin Sampson should be coaching in Indiana right now. He got taken out of Indiana for text messages. Like, when these thresholds happen that eventually just realize are so ridiculous and get put out of play. But I'll tell you this, guys, Kelvin Sampson is an unbelievable coach. And they are one of those 10 we talked about and having the right metrics. I don't think they've lost a road game all year. And I think based on that fact alone, that if you put those 3 teams together and all things equal, all health above board, man, I think we're going to see it. I don't know if it'll be Florida. I don't know if it'll be Texas Tech. I don't know if it'll be a sleeper. I think we're going to find out, because those 3 teams, all things being equal, should be in San Antonio. I would lean towards Houston because the obvious answer is Auburn or Duke. But I think Houston, they got it. They have what it takes to beat either of those 2 teams on a neutral floor. They may be the only team that can beat both of them right now at this point.
Okay, 2 things to end this with. Number 1, we got to get Kelvin some better shirts. It's going to be on a national stage here. We need to spruce up the dress code.
He wears sweatpants too,
right?
right?
He needs to spruce up the dress code a little. And, while you're on the subject of what got him out of Indiana, Bruce Pearl had a barbecue, for God's sakes.
We talked about that too. Someone took a picture of Aaron Kraft.
Yeah. Kerry, thank you for doing this.
Oh, I love it, guys. Anytime I come on, feel free to hit me up. I'm sure we'll be talking more as we get to postseason. And as I mentioned, the 2 SEC tournaments we get to enjoy in this postseason. One, the real one, and then the other one that everyone else gets to attend.
So let me make sure I got this right. I remember the word algorithms. What was the first word?
Proprietary.
Oh, good Lord.
Proprietary algorithm. In all seriousness, there is a methodology that needs to be implicated or imparted for these guys to understand how to judge the portal. So much of it is reactionary, and I think there will be over the next year or 2 more and more cases of failures in the portal that were reactionary towards stats. There's too much data available on 4 really big factors, and then you can And what I've set up is you can adjust the value of each one of those four accordingly to your own roster, to your own needs, to what's available. And Kelly, this is what pro guys have been doing, and this can translate into the NFL, into the NBA. What your needs are and what you put on each value and each weight to get your score, as opposed to just the baseline equal one. I think this is a new dawn in college basketball, and that's this professionalization that we talked about. One, paying the coaches too much. Now we're paying the players. Now we're going to have a front office. Now we got to hold the officials to a professional standard that's way higher than it is now, because there's a lot more at stake. But I think the way that we go about in college is going to have to change at the highest levels. The guys that figure that out first will be the ones that will have the most success in the shorter term.
Thanks for doing this. Awesome stuff.
Anytime, guys. Have a great one.
Great.
Kerry Keating, the professor.
He is, man. Golly, that guy is smart, man. He's right. I mean, I wouldn't know how to do it, but he's right. They've got to come up with some system, and each coach is different. But like what you're looking for in a player, and then you can put it all in, and then you can go use this artificial intelligence and stuff, and go out there and get play. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And if he makes hay with that, that'd be nice.
After the break, we'll get a preview of tonight's Lipscomb Central Arkansas game, and that will kind of start this whole A-Sun deal that you kind of feel like the road to it is somewhere going to end for somebody at Allen Arena. Tonight, Thursday, Sunday, those are the three rounds. If Lipscomb wins all three at home, they'll be dancing. Joe Sullivan joins us after the break. This is 94.9, The Fan.
New year, new priorities. Family and safety come first. If a car or truck accident disrupts your life, Bart Durham Injury Law is here to help. We're local, experienced, and ready to fight for you. Call 615-242-9000. Happy 2025 from Bart Durham Injury Law.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun. Here's Officer Garen Hoskins for the Metro Nashville Police Department.
The Metro Nashville Police Department is on the forefront of policing in this century, and I'm glad I'm a part of it. I'm glad I get to find other good officers, other future good officers. And if you're watching today, or you yourself or someone you happen to know is interested, join MNPD.com. Feel free to reach out to us, because we need good officers, and it's a great city to work for.
If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you know what? You need to contact the folks at Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you're a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. So check them out today, pancoastbenefits.com, or call them at 615-292-3400. At gmail.com. We will fit your budget and your needs. If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you know what? You need to contact the folks at Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you're a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. So check them out today, pancoastbenefits.com, or call them at 615-292-3400.
Hey, Preds fans, Maxer is coming to you from Boston, where the Predators finish their 3-game road trip tomorrow night at 6 against the Bruins. Pre-game radio coverage begins at 5. All of the call with Boston's own Hal Gill at 6 o'clock.
Smashville lives here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Fred's road trip up east thus far has been
pathetic.
Pathetic. Thank you. But that's a story for another segment, perhaps another day. Lipscomb opens tonight in the A-Sun tournament. A-Sun has home games, so the higher seeds get the home games. Lipscomb, as the one, in theory, will do nothing but play home games if they keep winning. Monday night against Central Arkansas, that's this evening. Thursday night, and then Sunday afternoon. That is their path to get to the NCAA tournament. Joe Sullivan, nice enough to join us from Main Street Media to talk about it. Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing great, and thank you for having me. But I got to tell you, following Kerry Keating, I don't know what to say. I feel like this happened to me once before in my life, where I had to speak, and the two speakers before me were Arnold Palmer and Jim Nance, and then I had to go, and I just was sinking in my chair as I had to realize I was going next. And I don't know, maybe it's like being a rock and roll band, and then the Jay Giles band opens for you, and like you're never going to be as good as them. Wow, Kerry Keating was fantastic.
Oh, Kerry's unreal. So do you like the way the A-Sun does this with home games?
Well, I think there's a yes and no. And I know that's a terrible non-commitment, but I guess I'll say it this way. No, I like when all teams get to one site for a conference tournament and play at the same place. I think and every day with no days off. I prefer that format. However, I understand the Atlantic Sun's situation. If they were to play this in Jacksonville, Florida, and everyone, Jacksonville and North Florida, get knocked out in the quarterfinals, then you're playing in front of empty arenas. What they're hoping for Sunday is a North Alabama versus Lipscomb game, and Allen Arena packed, and people cheering for the viewership that's going to be on national television. I believe it's ESPN2. I think it's going to be on, and so it's just a much better look for the league to get to that championship game and have a full excited arena, which they would not have on a neutral court. I think we can all agree with that.
Joe, this is a rematch of a game played last Thursday where Lipscomb won handily. Any reason to think this is any different tonight?
It isn't. I think Lipscomb should handle this very well. What happened last week, it was their final home game, and there was always a lot of emotion attached to that. They started off very quickly, and then they kind of like the energy level dropped, and Central Arkansas sort of climbed back into the game, but then Lipscomb was able to put them away. I don't think they'll have that problem tonight. The one big problem they might have is this player from Central Arkansas, Nehemiah Turner, is a 6'10", freshman who is averaging like 8 points a game all year, and suddenly the light bulb has come on for this kid. He had 24 against Lipscomb, and then last night against Stetson, he had 37 and I think 12 rebounds. He was dominating the game. And so I guess there is the danger that Nehemiah Turner, with his light bulb now shining brightly as a freshman, suddenly growing up, and maybe he would dominate Lipscomb, and there might be a problem there, get people in foul trouble. Jacob Ognadovic in trouble. Can't have him get in foul trouble. But I think Lipscomb really should have control of this game from the beginning, as long as they're playing their best. Then they should be fine.
Joe, how much pressure do you think is on them? Because it's now been 2 or 3 weeks, then it's been pretty apparent that they could end up hosting, and thus they become the favorite. You think there's much pressure on them?
Yeah, I do think there's pressure on them, but I also think they could also have a feeling of accomplishment at this point, because this was they were a definitive choice as the best team in this league, and the regular season really didn't happen in that manner for them. And then they had the bad injury. Dylan Faulkner was their starting center, sophomore. He got hurt. They had to adjust without him. And I really thought they lost a game at Eastern Kentucky, a team that has beaten them twice, where they got beat pretty badly up there, and they fell out of first place. Their season looked on the ropes at that point, and they have righted themselves and got back into position and got that number 1 seed. They needed help to do it, but they got it. And it's the weird tiebreaker they use in the Atlantic Sun. It's the descending record against teams that in the standings. So they are, in a sense, lucky to be the number 1 seed, but now they need to take advantage of it.
Is it your sense that they want no part of Eastern Kentucky, or just the other way around?
Well, I would think they'd want them again, and they will get them in the semifinals if Eastern Kentucky beats Jacksonville tonight. So I think that's a really interesting matchup to look forward to Thursday night. And it is worrisome for Lipscomb fans that, sometimes you get teams that match up a certain way, and it's just a bad matchup for you. And Eastern Kentucky appears to be that way for Lipscomb. Still, on their home court, I would like Lipscomb again in that game, despite what has happened with those 2 results. No one in the league has a player as good as Agnonovic for Lipscomb. This is, he's 6'8". He's averaging 20 points a game. Very skilled scorer. He scored 25 against Arkansas this year. This is a kid he's got another year left. And Lenny Acuff, the coach, has already told me that he's going into the portal. They know this is the end of him at Lipscomb. And he will be valued out there in the portal. There's no question. And so he is, despite we're talking about that young kid at Central Arkansas, this is the best player on the court. This is the best player in the Atlantic Sun, and he's capable of carrying them through all these games.
Joe Sullivan's on the line with us from Main Street Media. Kelly, what do you got for him?
Joe, we had Lenny on the other day, and he was talking about, and I didn't realize they had changed this rule, but used to be you have to, if you're one of these lower seeded conferences, you have to win your tournament. But back in the day, when you won the regular season championship, you knew you had an opportunity to go somewhere else. So that can take a little bit of pressure off of you going to the NIT. But how many teams, is it the top 12 conferences? Is that how they do that? Is that a floating scale, or how are they doing it nowadays?
Yeah, so it's been a moving target, to be honest with you, and I hope I'm right as I'm saying this. So it is. I believe it's just the power conferences. So it would be, the ACC, the Big 12, the Big 10, and then the Big East. And I'm leaving out who am I leaving out? I'm leaving out one more.
The SEC. Yeah,
the SEC. Wow, that's really one to leave out. I believe they're the only ones that have these guaranteed spots in the NIT. Now, the problem's going to come, like the SEC. Who's left in the SEC to go to the NIT? They're all going to be in the tournament, as you guys pretty much accurately stated in your segment with Kerry. So I don't think South Carolina is going to the NIT. They certainly don't qualify. And there's also this other new tournament, that Fox has put together in Las Vegas, which is just going to be sort of non-NCAA tournament teams in the Power Conference. I think there's 16 of them playing there. So I assume there'll be room for the smaller schools in the NIT this year based on that. And Lipscomb, actually, I really, I like the old way. So I think we should see Lipscomb in the NIT if they should falter based on that regular season title.
So,
but why talk about that? They really, the NCAA has got to be the goal.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it kind of takes the pressure off of you when you know that, hey, if we don't go to the NCAA, we at least got a shot for the postseason. Yeah, we can at least go to the NIT, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. So, how hard is it? Because Central Arkansas's got one of their better players out. Now, you talked about their freshman. We watched him. George and I watched him last week. That kid's pretty good. He's going to be, and I don't know if they're going to be able to keep him with the transfer portal and all that. But
it's always a question.
That's always a question. But how hard is it to when you get familiarity with a team? I mean, that's tough to beat them 3 times. And Lipscomb's a better basketball team. But they've been snake bitten the last couple of years, and it's with with the traumatic thing that happened to them last year against North Alabama, and they get beat on that long distance shot, like how that's got to be mentally weighing on them. And this Central Arkansas team has nothing, like they can go for broke because they have, everybody expects them to lose. So this is going to be a tough game for Lipscomb, I think.
You make good points, but here's the other side of it. This is a veteran team, and when they Central Arkansas, when they made the other night, when Central Arkansas sort of rallied back into the game, Lenny called a timeout. And I was talking to Joe Anderson, the point guard, after the game, and he said, look, we were all calm about it. We've been here before. We have a coach who instills confidence in us. We're gonna be okay. So the sort of veteran leadership of this team, fifth-year players like Joe Anderson and Will Pruitt, these are guys that can steady things when things get a little messy. So I think that they have that going for them. But it's look, you said it. Central Arkansas has shown some sparks. It would surprise me, but I'm not going to rule it out.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you, though. I mean, everybody wants a UNA Lipscomb on Sunday. They want a rematch, and hopefully we can get that because, just talking to Lenny the other day, he's such a good guy.
Yes.
I always say that teams play to the personality of their coach, and he's so laid. I'm not saying he's laid back, but he's calm in those situations, and those guys are calm too. And they were playing really good last year, and they got beat by UNA. So I'm with you. I think that everybody wants a North Alabama Lipscomb rematch in the championship.
That would be great. And Lenny is a guy about being positive when he's coaching the team. You can see it on the sidelines, and I know from talking to people how he is in the locker room. It's positive feedback, pushing his team to keep doing well. It's actually it fits this day and age with these types of athletes. The days of being able to be how can I say it? A yell and a screamer at your athletes. I'm not sure that works this day and age.
Kelly, you talking about how Lipscomb has been so snake bitten in the past reminds me how much luck you need in the postseason, especially at the mid-major level if you want to win your conference tournament. And Joe, like if Eastern Kentucky gets knocked off by Jacksonville tonight, maybe Lipscomb's team is sitting there saying, okay, here we go. We don't have to play EKU. We avoid them, right? You start to feel different and you need breaks like that to go your way, as you know, in these conference tournaments. And they're watching, right? They're watching these other games, and maybe that can affect them with the different results. And, you need luck on your side if you're going to win a conference tournament like this.
Absolutely. It is, I think back, you talk about luck. So Florida Atlantic, right, a couple of years ago, would Dusty May be the coach of Michigan if Fairleigh Dickinson didn't beat Purdue in the NCAA tournament? And, FAU, the bracket opened up for them because of that. And that certainly is luck. And it's part of the tournament process for sure.
Joe, thanks for taking the time. Save me a seat tonight. I'll be there.
See you over there, George.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Joe Sullivan from Main Street Media joining us. Allen Arena, hopefully tonight. There'll be some fans there. This is a game they ought to win, but shoulda, coulda, woulda when you get to postseason.
Doc Holliday on YouTube says Jacksonville is going to win this tournament. They could. Anybody could win this tournament.
Who knows?
You just never know in these conference tournaments. You just hope for Lipscomb's sake they find a way.
So after Professor Kerry, Keating, and Joe Sullivan, we're going to open it up for you all. A long third segment of the hour. So we've got time for some phone calls. Please jump in. Looking for red-blooded March Madness kind of people. 615-553-0933. Again, 615-553-0933. Billy, how else can people get in?
Chat room's open. We've got a few comments. We've got a funny early comment on the show to get to. But YouTube chat room is open. And apologies, Twitter is down today, so our show is not available on Twitter today, but it is still available on YouTube like it always is. Also Facebook and, of course, on 94.9 The Fan. So, but you can still chime in on YouTube and Facebook if you'd like.
Jump in. This is 94.9 The Fan.
As we step into the new year, there's nothing more important than family and safety. If a car wreck or big truck accident turns your world upside down, Bart Durham Injury Law is here to help. We're local, we're experienced, and we're ready to fight for what you deserve. Call us anytime at 615-242-9000. Really wishing you a safe and happy 2025 from Bart Durham Injury Law.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
People want to define teams by singular performances.
Sports. Did he not go back into the game after that interception?
Let's get this turned around. And we're all saying, no, they don't.
Here. You thought you were on your way.
Your sports live here.
On ESPN 94.9.
And the Game Nashville Sports Network. It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Okay, y'all are a little quiet today. And if that's the case, then we may have to send Greg Ruff to your home. And that would be a fate almost worse than death. Gruff Dog arrives at your home, you got big problems. Anyway, phone lines are open at this very moment. 615-553-0933. I am looking for red-blooded Americans who love March Madness. It's that simple. Clay in Nashville, get us started.
George, how are we today?
We're good. It's March Madness time. I love it.
Now, I have not listened to the whole show, but Kelly, is Kelly there?
He is.
I'm here, big dog. What's up?
Hoss, have you been nice to Billy today?
I have been nice to Billy today. I hadn't said anything to Billy. I hadn't said anything on Billy in like a week. Because when we were at a banquet, I told you about the banquet deal. I know you heard about that. He didn't bring the proper stuff that we were supposed to record something. So, Clay, that's why I get on to Billy. I mean, he's got to grow up at some point in his life. He's got a job, and he's got to be professional. You know what I'm saying?
Clay, why do you do this?
Billy, can you confirm that, Billy, that he's been nice?
He has. Today's been good. It's been more comfortable than usual.
Okay. Guys, I'll be honest with you. And I understand. As y'all know, I'm passionate about Vanderbilt basketball. Have been for a long time. So I'm not really trying to say this by looking through black and gold glasses. I'm just, a basketball fan that is an SEC fan and things like that. But in my opinion, Mark Byington is the SEC Coach of the Year, because here's a team that's thrown together through the portal. Only two of them have played together before, in Tyler Nickel and MJ Collins at Virginia Tech. And he's taken this team, meshed them together, made them into a competitive unit. And the game Saturday, the frustration, was in the first half. We just couldn't make our threes, but we battled and I guess we're down maybe 9 at half. But once again, whether it's Memorial Magic, whether it's that building, whether it's whatever, 8 points, and Billy, y'all talked about this on the post-game podcast, 8 points in the final 23 seconds. If Jason Edwards' three doesn't go down, which is a really hard shot, he makes that. We foul, they hit the free throws, we come down, and Tyler Nickel had no points with about 6 or 7 minutes left, but he had hit 3 in a row prior to that. And I felt very confident as a Vanderbilt fan that was going in and getting this game to overtime. And then more times than not, when a team ties a game and comes back to tie the game, they have the momentum going into overtime. And I felt very confident that Vanderbilt would win that basketball game. And the other thing that needs to be mentioned, A.J. Hoggard was coming off no points at Texas A&M. Had a bad game. Admittedly, had a bad game. Everybody does that. And here's a kid, according to Coach Byington, in the post game, that said he was the best player on the floor down the stretch. His ability to drive the lane, to get Missouri's defense to collapse and wonder what he was going to do, and he kicked it out, and that's what happened on the Tyler Nickel three. So this is an undersized basketball team that fights, scratches, claws, whatever they have to do to get the job done, mainly in Memorial Gym, but they also got it done in College Station. And it's just been a beautiful thing for me to see as a fan, to see this team, thrown together, blend together, love each other, fight together, and all that. And I've got to believe that Vanderbilt has nothing to worry about. They're in the NCAA tournament. Now it's about, let's think about this. They win their final 2 games. They probably, good chance that they'll have a bye on Wednesday in the SEC tournament. Along with, the more games you win, you're improving your seed in the NCAA tournament. So for all these reasons, I think Mark Byington should be SEC Coach of the Year, and I was just wondering what y'all thought about that.
Well, first of all, and thank you for the call. I'll let you hear this off air. Kelly, what's going to end up happening? You got 3 guys that are going to get the big votes. Gates at Missouri, Byington here, and Bruce Pearl for pretty much, running roughshod on the SEC in a year where you didn't think that could happen. And so, one poll will have Byington, one will have Gates, one will have Pearl. It's a tough award to decide. But here's what I do know. When I watch Byington here, I think they're getting as close to 100% of what that roster can give you. And the new development to me that's really good for them, because I thought they were running out of gas when they got beat by Auburn, and they have found a second wind. And part of that is this kid, Chris Mannion, who can jump out of the damn gym. You give him a head start, and he'll take the roof off. This kid can jump. And all of a sudden, he's giving them big numbers in points and rebounds. That's almost like a new weapon for them.
Yeah, but that's what a good coach can do, George. You know that. Everybody's talked about him all year. It's amazing what he's done in 1 year. He's brought y'all's Memorial Magic back. I mean, he's brought that back. Like everybody's now you can start expecting things for next year. So with what he had to start with and what he's got now, and those kids play hard, and just like you talked about how they left the Auburn game, but man, how they finished the game the other day. They never quit. And that's what I've told y'all that's what fans want. Fans just want a team that is tough as nails, that they might not win every game, but at least they're going to fight for every game. And that's what they do.
Yeah.
They are tough. I mean, you said it, Kelly, that Magnon is a personification of that entire team and how Byington likes to coach, because he's got to get everything out of everybody. It's not just one guy or even two guys a lot of nights. It's the whole team. They're a team, and they've got the intangibles. They've got the toughness. They've got, got some guys that have played in the NCAA tournament, like Hogard. Kerry played in it last year at James Madison. They can win in the tournament. I mean, who's to say they can't go on a run? I don't think a 2 seed, if they get a 7 seed, which is not likely.
They would play a 10 in that.
Right, they'd play a 10, and then would you want to be that 2 playing that Vandy team that next round? I mean, I certainly wouldn't.
I'd like to win the first game before I have that conversation.
But I mean, the teams they've beaten, they've proven they can beat.
Yeah,
they'd be able to win in the tournament.
What he's proving is what a crappy job Jerry Stackhouse did for 5 years. That they sit around having to put up with his nonsense. Tony in Nolensville, you are up next.
Good afternoon, guys. George, you just stole part of my thunder, is what I was going to say. I hope Stackhouse is seeing the fun that's going on at Memorial Gym and the Memorial Magic. What could have been done had he just put some effort into recruiting, into a team, and it probably don't matter nothing to him really, but I hope he's seen what could have been with him being here and what can happen out there. Y'all have covered the Vanderbilt game pretty thoroughly, and everything's been said's been correct. I was sitting here the other night watching all these games, and when I saw that on UT and Rick Barnes over there trying to call timeout, I thought that trailing referee. George, Kelly, Billy, think of this. What if the timeout was granted? They lose the game in overtime.
I don't think Rick
Barnes fans would have been like.
Sometimes it helps to be lucky.
Yep.
The problem is the officials are all having to watch stuff on the court. One of them's having to look to see if does the ball get released before the clock hits 0. There's a bunch of stuff they're having to watch. So the fact that they didn't see it is not a sinister deal. It's more that they got a lot on their plate at the very end.
And I applaud Rick Barnes, the man that he is. I like Rick Barnes, that he stepped up and said, I was trying to call timeout. I didn't even see it. And in the footage, and George, of course, I sent you a couple of pictures of it now. It is so plainly he's calling timeout with 1.3 seconds.
Yeah.
And the ball, get ready to be shot. I mean, it's such a good time for the luck to, fall for Rick Barnes and the UT. I know that they, hit the shot. No, I'm not the UT fan, but like you say, a lot of times it is good to be lucky. And guys, I've got to throw this out there. I've got to ask you, with the passing of one of the greats of all time, in Gene Ackman, I had to go back this weekend and catch Hoosiers and the replacements. I had to go back and watch them. It just you know how it's going to turn out. But you know what? It's so good to sit there and watch that whole thing all over again. So, that was, I don't know if y'all have gone back and caught one or two of them, but I just had to go back and do that. One last question I'm going to throw out there to y'all and let y'all talk about it. I'll listen off air. Is now that it's coming down to the stretch, and we were talking about it 3 and 4 weeks ago, if they could get to 8 wins and all that with Vandy. As Clay alluded to, if they do win out and say they get a first win in the SEC, that's the highest seed I think we could go is a 6. I don't want to get caught in that 8, 9, and then you have to play a 1 if you win. But I think we could get up to a 6. I was going to get y'all's take on it and just where do y'all think is realistically if they win a couple more games, either one if they win both of them against Georgia and Arkansas, or if they win one and get one in the tournament, about where will they realistically end up? And get y'all's opinion on that. All right, guys. I'll tell you later. Good show as always. Thank you.
Kelly, I'm going 7. I think that's a realistic number.
I think isn't that as far as they're going to go? I mean, they're talking about 8, but 7. I don't know if they can. I don't know if I agree with Tony on the 6th.
Yeah. By the way, who's the quarterback in replacements?
Is that Keanu Reeves?
Yeah, but what's his name in the movie?
Oh, gosh. Here's the deal, George. You got to understand. I went to the movies to watch that, and when I sat down for 5 minutes, and it was so unrealistic, I told my wife, I cannot watch this, so I left.
Billy, who is it? No, don't be looking at it. He's cheating. Little cheater, Tyler
Falco. It's Falco.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shane Falco.
Shane Falco. That's right.
Joe in Nashville. Final call. Welcome.
You talking about John?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I call you Joe?
Come on, George.
Hey, George. George, I've been called worse, so that's no big deal. What I was going to mention is I heard Friday morning show. It wasn't your 94.9, but some other show that Lenny Acuff was on there, and he said that they were called. He got called like Thursday morning and said, no matter what, if you by the NIT that you're in because you've met enough requirements.
Yeah.
I think they're in no matter what. I want them to win the NCAA. I mean, win the tournament title to go to the NCAA. Sure. But I believe it's already been done because he was talking. Somebody asked him that, and he said we've already, been invited to. And the other thing I was going to say about Vanderbilt is it just seems like every game that I can listen to, I can't listen to everything. They just always have some new guy step up and have a big game. And that's what I just think that's one of their keys to success. If somebody slacks off, somebody else steps up. There's always a new player. It just seems like that all the time. So appreciate it.
Yeah. And he brings up a really good point that, I don't know. We could have seen that part of this coming. First of all, we couldn't see where they are coming. And each night it seems to be somebody different.
And Kelly, that's coaching. I mean, you can't. That's
coaching.
That's him having everybody ready, having the eighth guy. That Magnon. He was from Cornell, good player at Cornell, but he just had 23 points. I mean, it could be Jalen Kerry tomorrow night who has 20 and goes off. It could be anybody.
He was doing everything the other night, man. Like he was like rebounding, stealing balls. He was all over the place. He was scoring points. He was making free throws. I mean, he's been big the last couple of games.
Mm-hmm. Kelly, guess what's coming?
Oh gosh, have you been fortunate here lately, George?
I don't even remember, but I'm going to give you a theory that was shared to me earlier today by Larry Schmittou. You'll want to hear it next on 94.9 The Fan.
Where can you see a saber-toothed tiger rappel from the rafters? How about a catfish fly? The biggest stars in Music City. Not to mention hockey's hottest ticket. The Predators win! Only in Smashville. See your Nashville Predators all season long at Bridgestone Arena. Single game tickets are on sale now at NashvillePredators.com. Let's go, Preds!
Hit After Hit has become the baseball store in Tennessee. They have over 1,000 different models of gloves and over 1,500 wood bats. They also have several Iron Mike pitching machines as well as a Hit Tracks machine. If they don't have it, you probably don't need it. We're proud to call Hit After Hit the official shirt provider of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. The George Plaster Show gets advertisers the results they're looking for. For example, here's Metro Nashville police officer Garen Hoskins.
You hear me all the time on the show talk about, changes in career and people looking to serve their community and get into law enforcement and join a great department. And I just so happened to meet an individual who heard my segment on your show and has already applied, has come from multiple different career paths and has always had this dream. And we're very glad to have him. And that's just going to be the start of many.
If you want to be part of the Plaster Show advertising family, it's simple. Just email me, plastergeorge@gmail.com. Again, plastergeorge@gmail.com. We will fit your budget and your needs.
We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
It's the George Plaster Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Got some college tonight. Wake Forest at number 2, Duke at 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Kansas at number 3, Houston. Also, Lipscomb hosting Central Arkansas in the ASUN tournament at Allen Arena. We'll see where George is going with Bet of the Day, brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. But first, we take a look at what happened over the weekend. Looks like it was a 2-2 weekend. Got Vandy, got Auburn. Tennessee did not cover
by a half point.
And Arkansas got embarrassed.
Arkansas.
Wow. What was that?
That was awful.
So, Kelly, earlier today, Larry Schmittou speculated at our breakfast that if things are going bad for me, that I'll then bet like 3 or 4 in a night and only bring up the ones that won. I loved it. I was like, there could be some truth to that.
He's right. He is right about that. I've never thought about that.
Yeah, well, he had. So, Larry, if you're listening, only one game tonight. Big Ten. Who would have ever said UCLA's in the Big Ten? They go to Northwestern tonight. I think they're the better team. I don't feel real strong about this. This was not a heavy night. I'm going Bruins -3 at Northwestern. Kelly, he may be right, though, tomorrow. There might be several games on the list.
I can imagine that. Take the blame off. Take the blame off.
Tomorrow on the show, busy show tomorrow. Tony Basilio joining us from Knoxville. Chip Walters to talk about MTSU. They are very close to being an NCAA tournament team. And then the hottest shooter in the country at Belmont, Tyler Lundblade, 48% for the year from three-point territory. He is in Fuego.
Wow. He's in
How about
Fuego.
that? He's in Fuego.
Yeah.
The number one 3-point field goal shooter in the entire NCAA, and he will join us on this very show. Guys, behave. We'll see you tomorrow.
See ya.
See ya.